Hello! We have 3 stories today. 3 more famous stories from the top 10 list that everyone should hear and can't be missed. This next story is an iconic Am I the Jerk story and spawned its own catchphrase you'll hear in many comments. The Iranian yogurt is not the issue here. In story 1, I'm a 29-year-old female. My boyfriend is a 30-year-old male. We've been living together for 2 years in a little studio in a very expensive, big US city. My boyfriend grew up rurally with lots of space, enough to collect all kinds of things. He collected action figures and video games and all the normal kid stuff when he was young. But as he grew older, he became interested in more unusual things. As a teen, he had 8 guinea pigs of different types from different breeders. Since Tide Pods were released 7 years ago, he's saved one of every kind of Tide Pod. He's got a big box of an international variety of electric insulators, those little ceramic hats that power lines wrap around on power poles. He's not a hoarder. He's usually neat, just used to having lots of space for his bizarro collections. At his parents' ranch, he has 2 big rooms full of containers of weird and impressive things. He recently became interested in yogurt. He's always hated dairy products until about a year ago. He not only started drinking milk and sharing ice cream with me, but he's found a love for yogurts. So he now collects them, of course. The problem is that they're perishable. So until earlier today, our little 550 square foot studio contained about 2,100 cups of yogurt. It comes in tons of varieties, different types, flavors, textures, containers made by different companies in different countries. This is like crack to my boyfriend. So he tried to pretty much save a sample of everything he could find. He filled our fridge, bought a new fridge, and then another tiny bedside fridge. He said he didn't want to walk to the fridge at night, but it was obviously a ruse to get more yogurt space. These fridges all filled up with his yogurts, and if you keep them for long, they smell bad. Sometimes the packaging breaks. So our apartment was smelling like rotten milk for the last 2 weeks, and my boyfriend's attitude was, "Oh, it's fine," and "just deal with it for a little longer." Until I pulled the plug and threw it all out this morning. I was looking at my groceries, which I had to put beside the fridge because there was no space, and everything smelled like death. And then I kinda snapped and threw it all away. My boyfriend is understandably upset. We've been arguing about whether I crossed a line by throwing away his stuff. And he's especially upset because he, of course, had rare yogurts that were hard to find. In particular, he had some Cuban and Iranian yogurts that you can't get in the US. But I know that we have trade sanctions against Iran and Cuba, so I don't know if it was even legal for him to have them. I asked where he got his Iranian yogurt, but he kept insisting, the Iranian yogurt is not the issue here, and that the real issue was me throwing out his precious yogurts without his permission. Am I the jerk? Do I need legal advice? Thanks in advance. I'm so exasperated. In the comments, and in response to the Iranian yogurt is not the issue here, Petunia McFlowerpot said, I hope at some point in my life I find a way to seamlessly drop that into conversation. Pteridonia said, not the jerk. You know who loves yogurt? Terry. You know who doesn't hoard yogurt? Terry. If Terry doesn't hoard yogurt, neither should your boyfriend. Just Scroll said, but it was obviously a ruse to get more yogurt space. Ha ha ha. In response to not a hoarder, 2,100 yogurts, Leah1 said, do we tell her? Yes, Leah, we tell her. Of course we tell her. OP, your boyfriend is a hoarder. It sounds to me like the excitement of being in a new relationship is starting to soften and dull into the longer-term love that makes a long-lasting relationship. However, that is also when all those little things start to creep to the surface. How this didn't surface as an issue earlier is mind-boggling. 2,100 packs of yogurt? I mean, a 12-pack of Danone takes up way too much real estate in my fridge. I can't even imagine having a 500 square foot apartment full of yogurt and the smell. Oh, so disgusting. This isn't an AITA video, but I'm going to have to go with not the jerk. Between the smell and the potential legal issues, OP did the right thing. Our second story is the shortest, but might be the most impactful. It comes from Legal Advice. A man's life was saved when he shared the details of what he thought might be someone breaking into his apartment. In story 2. On the 15th of April, I found a yellow post-it note in a handwriting that wasn't mine on my desk, reminding me of some errands I had to do, but told literally nobody about. While odd, I chalked it up to something I did in my sleep, thinking maybe in my half-awake state, I scrawled it so it didn't appear to be my handwriting. I threw it out and thought little of it. On the 19th, I found another post-it on the back of my desk chair in the same handwriting as the previous note, telling me to make sure I saved my documents. I was freaked out, but there were no other signs of a break-in, so I set up a webcam in my house aimed at my desk and used a security cam app for it to record after detecting movement. On the 28th, I woke up to find another post-it note, this one saying, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you, but it's important we do." I immediately checked the webcams folder on my computer and found nothing from the night before. But my computer's recycling bin had been emptied, which I am certain I did not do recently, indicating someone had noticed the webcam and deleted the files. They were just saved straight to a folder on my desktop called Webcam. Today, on the 1st of May, I found another post-it note, this time on the outside of my door, with nothing written on it. And there also appeared to be post-its on many other doors in my apartment complex, all blank in varying colors. Do I have any legal recourse here? I have no proof except for the post-its, but those are written by my pen and on my post-it notes. So conceivably, I could have faked them. Would contacting the police get me into any trouble if they can't determine an outside source for this? I just want to make sure I'm not wasting anyone's time. Should I consult my landlord? Those also living in the complex? Edit. I pulled up a letter I received from my landlord back when I moved in, and the handwriting is identical. Could this count as evidence? Comment from user Kakerlak. You seem sincere, and this doesn't appear to be the plot of a Ray Bradbury short story. It's possible that your landlord is leaving notes inside your apartment, but they don't make any sense in the context you're describing them. It's likely that you are writing the notes yourself, but you are forgetting. Do you use post-it notes as reminders in any other parts of your life or job? Yes, this might be a mental health issue. You might be experiencing some sort of dissociative disorder. Or it might be a physical problem. You mentioned that you have a very unusual narrow bedroom with no windows. Is there a chance that you are not getting enough ventilation when you sleep? Or that there is a carbon monoxide leak in the building? A cheap carbon monoxide detector, which you should have anyway, is a fast way to find out. You'll also have really bad headaches. You know your own medical and mental history and your other experiences. If you think these incidents might be you, writing notes to yourself, there's no shame in getting somebody qualified to give you an opinion. In the comments, OP responds to the above notable comment. I have had really bad headaches, and I actually already do have a carbon monoxide detector. Guess I should probably take that out of its box and plug it in. OP, what is happening in your place? I would be super creeped out. It's obviously your crazy landlord. I mean, how else could the webcam files get deleted? I think you need to move. Fear not, we have the update. Let's find out what happened here. Thanks to everyone who sent suggestions and gave advice on how to proceed, especially to those who recommended a carbon monoxide detector. Because when I plugged one in the bedroom, it read at 100 ppm. In the comments, Bones said, "Sounds like you owe user Kakerlak big time. He may have just saved your life. Glad you figured it out." Roach Coach said, "Whoa, this is not at all where I was expecting this story to go. So, you wrote yourself a bunch of post-it notes and forgot them because of carbon monoxide poisoning?" OP replied, "Apparently. I also set up a webcam by placing it on a shelf, downloading a camera app to my phone, and making a folder on my desktop called Webcam, and made an iPhoto library in the folder." OP added, "Actually, as it turns out, I never plugged it in. I just put it on a shelf, downloaded a webcam app to my phone, which isn't even compatible with an external webcam, and made a folder on my desktop called Webcam, then thought it was deleted when the folder was empty." Disregard my previous thoughts. I was way off. ppm, by the way, is parts per million for those who don't know. And you know I'm going to take the opportunity to insert a little factoid here. Adverse health issues can start with long-term exposure to 10 to 29 parts per million. No wonder OP was barely functioning. Reddit definitely saved OP's life. Our third story is another from Legal Advice that has a woman with a new baby dealing with a neighbor who just won't stop banging on the walls. But nobody suspected the real terrifying truth of what was on the other side of that wall. In story 3. I live in a duplex in Washington state with my husband and my son, who is only a few months old. My father in law owns half of the duplex and is renting it to us, and the other half is owned by an older woman and her adult daughter. My father in law has known the women for over 15 years. He told us before we moved in that the daughter was mentally ill and had strong delusions on occasion that caused trouble with the previous tenants. The last tenants apparently had to get a civil anti-harassment order placed against the daughter, but eventually moved out when the behaviors never stopped. Apparently, the neighbor accused them of kidnapping and abusing their children and abusing their dogs. My husband and I brought our son home a few months ago, and we didn't have any issues with the neighbor until about 2 weeks ago. She has begun banging on and throwing things at the walls when our son cries. She screams at us as well, but I usually can't hear what she's actually saying. You know? Over the screaming baby and the 2 dogs going absolutely ballistic because of the banging, it's absolute chaos, and it has made my postpartum anxiety so much worse. Every time the baby cries, I experience intense panic, waiting for the screaming and banging to start. We have called the non-emergency police line twice when I can't handle it anymore and feel close to a meltdown. And the first time they talked to her and she stopped doing it as often, maybe once every 2 days. Tonight, she is back at it and worse than ever. The air quality is so bad right now from the fires. I can't let the dogs out for long to stop them from barking, and the barking makes the baby cry harder, which makes the neighbors scream and pound on the walls harder. The officer I spoke with says we can try to get a civil anti-harassment order placed, but he knew for a fact that her behaviors never stopped after the last tenants tried. That, and he said his unofficial advice would be to live somewhere else. Is that seriously my only option? We can afford to move, but I can't keep living like this. OP, being a new mom is rough. Sleepless nights, catering to only the needs of a new little bundle of joy. The frustration must be epic. I mean, it sounds like you're getting zero sleep or peace. Could this be another gas leak? Is OP hearing or seeing things? Nope. Next up, we head into the update that was verified by multiple people hearing about it in the local news. Update. My first post never got much attention, but the outcome was pretty wild. Short version. In October 2020, my husband and I were renting in a duplex where my father-in-law owned the half we lived in, and a separate family, adult daughter acting as caregiver to elderly mother, owned the other half. We brought our son home from the neonatal intensive care unit in August, and towards the end of September, the neighbor, a female in her 40s, started to pound on the shared wall if she could hear him cry. The pounding escalated over the next 2 months. The neighbor bought a megaphone to yell through the wall and threatened to rip us apart. She called us child predators, and she'd yell obscenities and threats until 3 or 4 in the morning. The police were called multiple times. Nothing could be done about it. One officer told us, "I'm going to kill you." See, it doesn't mean anything if I don't actually do it. The elderly mother hadn't been seen in several months, but requests for wellness checks were brushed off. The general advice I got was that as renters, we couldn't do anything. It was also suggested that this was reasonable behavior since the crying baby was probably really annoying. Since my first post, we moved in with my grandmother for our safety. The neighbor ended up busting a softball-sized hole through the shared wall to scream at us and occasionally just stare at us. Oh my gosh. The smell that came out of the hole was indescribably bad. Our security cameras recorded her coming to my son's nursery window at around 2 a.m. almost daily, just staring and holding her cat. It took until the end of January for the police to be able to enter her property. The end of January. Okay, pause. I'm sorry. If they had video evidence that she was practically entering the house, at least her head through this hole, I'm confused. She was entering their home through the hole. Okay. The elderly mother had been deceased since at least June, and the daughter had the corpse dressed in her Sunday best, rotting in a dead, bolted bedroom. A news article said the mother died from natural causes. The daughter was taken to an inpatient psychiatric facility. Well, goodness, that took a turn. In the comments and in response to, the general advice I got was that as renters, we couldn't do anything. It was also suggested that this was reasonable behavior since the crying baby was probably really annoying. Archer's Arrow said, I don't really enjoy kids. I hate shrill noises, and I'm generally an irritable crone. But I have never said, well, that crying baby is so annoying that logically anyone would threaten to murder its parents. Fork Shirt Up said, after the first paragraph, I just wonder if father-in-law hates OP and his grandchild. Edit. I get the father-in-law didn't own the other side, but I think at some point the conversation could have went, by the way, a mentally ill lady lives next door. She has a history of screaming and violent threats. It should be fine. Well, that was really an unexpected ending. Quite sad, really. The thought of the head through the wall really had me going, though. But I hope the daughter got the help she needed. To think she was there, alone, all that time with no wellness checks and no other family or friends to look in on her. And I'm sorry, but how long was that hole there before the police showed up? That's what I'm really curious about. If someone was poking their head into my home, I'd be down to the station on the daily. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.